Are you ready for a bone-chilling winter? And I'm not talking about snow. Today I'm going to be talking about my winter horror book recommendations. These are books that are set in a snowy, isolated winter setting that'll help really bring in the season and set the perfect tone for a cozy indoor read when it's nice and snowy outside. I have 6 books that I'm going to be talking about, 3 that I've read, and then 3 that are on my radar that I think sound like the perfect winter horror atmospheric book. So this first one's called I'm Thinking of Ending Things, and it's about this woman who goes on a road trip with her boyfriend to meet his parents. And during the road trip, she is thinking about how she wants to end things with him, wants to break up with him, thinking about why, thinking about their relationship. All the while it is dark and it is snowing. They're in their car, so it's has that kind of isolated feeling to it, that kind of claustrophobic feeling of you're in this car with someone who you're supposed to kind of have this love and relationship for, and it's just kind of fizzled out. And I think that kind of adds an interesting tension to the book. But then we just get to the parents' house and things get really weird from there. It just escalates and it really brings in that claustrophobia and that isolation that I feel like a lot of winter horror books just nail on the head. And this one is a really good one for the season. The next one I'm going to be talking about is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. He's a pretty popular author. He's done My Heart is a Chainsaw, which I feel like a lot of people really love. Unfortunately, it's not one of my favorites, but I did prefer this one. This one is about 4 men who are part of I think it's the Blackfeet. This is about 4 men who are part of I believe the Blackfeet tribe. And they go out hunting one day on a part of the land that is kind of sacred and you're not supposed to hunt on. And they kill a pregnant deer, with her babies. And 10 years later, they're being hunted by a cryptid of sorts. I feel like I say cryptid too often. I guess it's some kind of entity or spirit. I don't know. I don't want to say cryptid if it's not a cryptid, but they're being hunted by an entity for what they've done. And beyond that, their families are being hunted as well. So this one is really an interesting one. It really is something that I feel like this is the first of its kind that I've read. I haven't read a lot like this before, and it was so interesting to see how, yes, it's this horror book that's about a creature, but it's also about culture and it's about your identity and it's about specifically the culture of these Native Americans and their traditions and what that exactly means and looks like and what it means when you might go against those traditions. So this one was really interesting, and it takes place I feel like it takes place maybe in the fall, and then it goes into winter, if I remember. I read this a few years ago, so I'm not exactly sure, but I do recall a scene where there is a lot of snow, and I just remember just feeling so cold during that and feeling like I was in there and I was in 5 feet of snow and getting frostbitten. I think that if you can be transported into a setting like that, then the author has done their job well. The final book that I have of the ones that I've personally read is We Used to Live Here. This is one of my favorite books that I've read. I think I read this last year, last fall. And it was so good and eerie and creepy. This is about a couple who they renovate houses. They flip houses, and they're currently flipping this house. And one part of the couple goes out to town to run some errands or whatever, and the other one stays behind, and she's alone in the house. And these people come to the door and knock and say, "Hi, we used to live here. Can we please come in and look around for old time's sake?" And she kind of describes herself as a pushover. Her wife is the person who's going to stand up and say no, and she's not there. So she kind of almost guilts herself into letting them in. And from there, things get really weird. Things get I actually won't say that. I don't know if it's a spoiler, but things get really weird. It first starts as kind of creepy occurrences where you're is this family doing weird things on purpose? Is it just the house? What exactly is the cause of this weird energy? And honestly, after reading it, I still don't really know. And I think the ending of this book has stayed with me since I've read it last year, and I think about it kind of frequently because I'm like, what happened? Like, what is going on? And I mean that in a good way, I think. Like, it was so weird and so off-putting and like spooky that I'm like, oh, like literally, will we ever know? Probably not. Like, unless the author wants to throw us a line and say, oh, by the way, this is explained. But I don't even think that's like, I think it's good that you don't know. I guess if you did know, it wouldn't add to the plot. Or it wouldn't be as good. But this was just so good. Again, there's this feeling of isolation. They are, eventually the wife does come home, and there are these two women alone in this house with this family they don't know, in a house that is kind of further away from town and further away from like neighbors. And it's during winter. There's like scenes, I believe, where there's like snow coming down. And so it's just cold and isolated, and you don't know what this family is up to, and it's just weird. And I love this book. So if you're gonna read any of these books, read that one. Come back to me, let me know if you loved it. The next book I have to talk about is not one that I've read yet, but I really want to get to it hopefully this winter. I didn't add these horror books to my TBR because I kind of wanted to talk about them in this video, but they are definitely on my radar. But this one is called Stolen Tongues. It's about a couple who tries to go on this romantic getaway to a cabin, but then they start hearing really weird things, and it's really snowy out, and it's isolated again. And one night the husband wakes up and he hears his wife speaking in her sleep, and it seems like she might be speaking to somebody, maybe outside of the cabin. I am just really intrigued by that. I think that it sounds so interesting, and maybe not something that I've totally read before. It does sound like it's gonna be like a monster horror, which I do like, at least from also the cover. It looks like there's gonna be a monster involved. And the cover, again, like there's just snow on the cover, an isolated cabin. It just sounds perfect. It sounds like the perfect creepy read, and I'm really excited about this one. So this next one I want to read is called The Winter People, which obviously sounds like the perfect winter read, about this woman who is found dead behind her house in 1908. And then years later, a family moves in. It's Ruthie, which is the older sister, her younger sister, and then their mom, Alice. And then one day their mom, Alice, goes missing, and Ruthie kind of takes it upon herself to try to find out what happens. And through that, she finds the diary of the woman who was found dead behind the house. And she begins to kind of unravel exactly what happened to her and maybe what led up to it. And is hopefully trying to stop history from repeating itself. I think this is kind of interesting because of this historical background to it, and this kind of flashback, which usually I'm not like a huge historical fiction person, but I did read another book kind of in a similar vein called The Lost Village, about this camera crew who goes out to this village where everyone seemingly abandoned it or disappeared, vanished. No one knows what happened to these people, but everybody except one baby and one woman, I believe, were found, and the woman was found dead. So it is this mystery of what exactly happened to the village, but they have flashbacks of chapters where it's the village before everybody went missing. And I just liked that historical aspect tying in with the modern day, and kind of seeing like the overlap was so interesting. It felt like I felt like I could totally visualize the village as it was versus this abandoned kind of ghost town that it had become. And I thought that was really interesting. So this to me sounds like it has a similar premise with kind of the merging of history. I'm not so sure. I haven't read this one yet, but I do look forward to picking this one up and seeing how similar they might be. The final book that I have is Krampus, the Yule Lord by Brom. He is the same author that did Sleuth, which I feel like is a fan favorite, like on Book Talk and BookTube. I just read it this past fall, and I did really enjoy it. I think I had slightly different expectations of what it was going to be, but that being said, it was still a really enjoyable book, and I loved the horror aspects of it. So I'm really intrigued to pick up his winter version of it, kind of. I mean, it's not, but it is, you know. And it is Krampus, and this is about a man who finds himself kind of down on his luck. It seems like he's kind of a struggling artist, and he one day notices this sleigh of reindeer and these little devils going up to it and attacking the reindeer, and also maybe a big demon or Yule Lord. And they go up into the sky, and then there's screams, and then the sack falls to the ground. And from there, the musician is kind of in the clutches of Krampus. And I'm just so intrigued. I have another Krampus book on my TBR for the winter, and I just think this is going to be such a fun, interesting read. And also, he has great art in all his books, and I feel like that really elevates the story, and I'm really excited to see what he has for this book. So yeah, I don't know much else about it. I know that's actually also set in Appalachia, which I love, like Appalachian lore, any folklore, any horror, anything like that about Appalachia. I want to read it. So I think that definitely added to the intrigue. And I'm really excited to pick this one up. I'm so excited about the books that I have on my TBR, and I hope that you found a few new bone-chilling books to add to your TBR list this season. And with that, thank you for being here, and I'll see you soon.